Iron John, Part 7. Alright, we'll continue on from the last paragraph. Then there was Jeb, the Earth Father. Libby and Arthur Coleman, in their book The Father, reproduce fine paintings of Jeb, who lies with his back to the earth, his stomach and erect phallus, pointing for the stars. Sorry, I skipped a sentence. His stomach and erect phallus, earth-coloured, reaching up toward the woman in the sky, or longing for the stars. The Greeks and the Europeans after them lost track of the full complement of four gods and preserved memory of only two. When we remember only two gods, the sexes polarize and begin to seem opposite. Each gender becomes identified. Men with sky, women with earth. Men become identified with sky fire, women with earth water. Many women today say the earth is female. A man told me that when he hears that, he feels he has lost the right to breathe. And when a man says God is male, women have said that they feel they have no right to pray. Mythology is important. The polarization coming from our fragmentary Greek mythology has already caused immense harm. Today, when a man or woman dreams of a lake, the therapist assumes that the water refers to the feminine. For those who know Latin, mare, the sea, associates with Mary, and pretty soon the sea is female, and since the sea is the unconscious is female as well, and so on. The Iron John story, which is pre-Greek, does not polarize earth and sky. Iron John lives in the water, under the water. He also lives wholeheartedly on earth. His wildness and hairiness, in fact, belong to the earth and its animals. Neither earth nor water seems exclusively feminine or masculine. The old Celts had a male god called Domu, or depth of the waters. And it is possible that this god has been living in the spring to which the wild man has just introduced the boy. Because the wild man and the wild woman both guard the pond in some Celtic stories, it is more appropriate to say that the water is soul water, and as such, both masculine and feminine. Water in symbolic systems does not stand for spiritual or metaphysical impulses, which are better suggested by air or fire, but earthly and natural life. Water belongs to lowly circumstances, ground life, birth from the womb, descent from the eternal realm to the watery earth, where we take on a body composed mostly of water. When our mythology opens again to welcome women into sky heaven and men into earth water, then the genders will not seem so far apart. White men will feel it more natural. Then for them to protect earth, as the Native American men have always felt a right to do. As we end our discussion for the first day, we must notice that not all young men who put their hand in the water see the fingertip turn gold. The analyst Alexander Mitscherlich retells the dream of a young German man he once treated. This young man, from illegitimate birth, abandoned by his father, was held to his mother by both spoiling and punishments. In his dream, an old man in a car with a skull for a head drove straight at him. Later he said, "I walked a long way, went into a park, and saw some goldfish in a fountain. At the bottom of the fountain I saw a town and heard bells ringing. I put my hand in the water, but was terribly frightened, for when I withdrew my arm, my hand was missing. I ran away and saw that the old man was following me, pointing a pistol at me. I saw a flash and lost consciousness." Society without the father. No positive mentor or Iron John appears. An evil old man tries to kill him twice. The pond with its goldfish has an astonishing resemblance to the spring in our story. But this isolated pond takes his whole hand. When we see today in street gangs, what we see today in street gangs are many handless boys. Early the next morning, the boy sat again at the spring, watching over it. His finger still hurt. Sorry, we'll go back to the story. So this is the second day. Early the next morning, the boy sat again at the spring, watching over it. His fingers still hurt, and after a while, he ran his hand up through his hair. One hair, Alice, came loose from his head and fell into the spring. He immediately reached down and pulled it out, but the hair had already turned to gold. The moment Iron John returned, he knew what had happened. You've let a hair fall into the spring. I'll allow it this time, but if it happens a third time, it will dishonor the spring, and you will not be able to stay with me any longer. We could say that the boy has elevated his wounded finger this time, and that is a little different from dipping it. First, a man dips his wound, one could say, into psychological water, and then he elevates it into mythological space. All stories of the blacksmith with a wound, the Fisher King, the man whose wound won't heal, help us see to our own wounds in an impersonal way. And we know from the shaman stories that their wounds were impersonal. Wounds need to be extended. Wounds need to be expanded into air, lifted up on ideas our ancestors knew, so that the wound ascends through the roof of our parents' house, and we suddenly see our wound, seemingly so private, fits into a great and impersonal story. Mythology helps to give weight to our private wounds. To feel the wound in a particular part of our body gives the wound weight, and to understand it as a part of an ancient story gives it weight. Without the weight given by a wound consciously realized, the man will lead a provisional life. The wounded finger this time gets associated with hair. Hair covers the wild man and the wild woman, as we know from many sources. The question of hair comes up a lot in this story. When we look for cultural associations with the word hair, we notice at least 4 linkages. The first is to sexual energy. When a young Roman woman joined the Vestal Virgins, the other woman ritually shaved her head. Monks during the Middle Ages were tonsure, and Orthodox Jewish women to this day wear wigs to hide their own hair. Because animals exhibit hair in profusion, and because we see our own sexuality as animal, the linkage is unavoidable. A man's moustache may stand for his pubic hair. A friend once grew a moustache when he was around 30. The next time he visited his mother, she looked into the corners of the room as she talked to him, and would not look at his face, no matter what they talked about. Hair then could represent sexual energy. Hunters traditionally wear long hair, as do the animals that they hunt. Hair then can stand for animal life in general, particularly the life of wild animals. Many boys become fascinated with hunting and make small bows and arrows, form hunting bands, and shoot rabbits or birds. It doesn't always turn out well. The boy enthusiastically brings home a dead cottontail or a killed robin, but many women and some men feel that a boy's hunting instinct is deplorable and he should be educated out of it. New Age parents usually want the boy to bypass hunting and go directly to ethics. The trouble with such a bypass is that the boy is mythologically living through the past history of man, which includes century after century of joyful hunting, which we would guess the women of that time relished as well. During the hunting era, the man's emotional life and even his religious life resonated to the empty spaces of forest and plain, and he learned about God through hunting animals. As the drawings in the Dogon caves make clear, I think it's pronounced Dorjoni caves. Never heard of it before. If a shaming mother or father blocks a boy from living that time, though, he will never arrive at a contemporary time. He will still be bringing a deer back to Detroit on top of his car when he's 50. Hare suggests not only closeness to animals through hunting or domestication, but it suggests all forms of animal hot-bloodedness. Reptiles, cold-blooded, like hare. And so hare comes to represent that passionate, flaring nature peculiar to mammals. Hot tempers, redheads, fiery temperaments, passionate impulsiveness, spontaneity, explosive emotions, leonine fierceness, tigerish jealousy. But whether the haired people are symphony conductors with flowing hair, or corporate men with medium cut, grey flannel hair, so to speak, or the real pruners of extravagance, and the fundamentalists who favour crew cuts or shaved heads. The amount of hair allowed suggests how far the instincts are curtailed and the spontaneity curbed. Some people make no distinction between the instinct for fierceness and the instinct for aggression. In recent decades, the separatist wing of the feminist movement, in a justified fear of brutality, has laboured to breed fierceness out of men. Finally, hair suggests excess. The hairiness of Enkidu, the Babylonian wild man, or Pan, the goat man, suggests that hair stands for what is beyond the boundaries of a middle-of-the-road civilization. The boundaries of all middle-of-the-road civilization. Pan is outside the enclosure. When a woman's hair tumbles down, abundantly and richly, we hear the hair saying words about the value of excess. Blake says, "The road of excess leads to the place of wisdom." He associates hair with earth, the eyes of the fire, the nostrils of air, the mouth of water, the beard of earth. When the boy in our story then inadvertently dislodges one hair that falls into the spring, and it turns to gold, we could say he learns these things. That sexual energy is good. That the hunting instinct, which mammals possess without shame, is good. That animal hate, fierceness, and passionate spontaneity is good. And that excess extravagance and going with Pan out beyond the castle boundaries is good too. Hair also suggests thoughts. Hair keeps coming out of the head day and night. So hairs resemble thoughts that come out even when we are sleeping. Even when the conscious system is shut down at night, thoughts keep coming out. Some of them are called dreams. We know that the hormonal and digestive systems go on working below any conscious control of the ego. Can you, by thinking, add an inch to your height? Growth, oxygen replenishment, blood cleaning, cell replacement, all go on when no one is watching. In a small passage from the poem. So much happens when no one is watching, perhaps because no one is watching. Pirates bring their ship in when night has come. The dancer perfects her art after she performs. No more. The planet turns, and cows wait for the grass blades to come rushing to their mouths. Hare then stands for all those intuitions that appear out of nowhere, flowing channels we cannot observe. A scientist glimpses the solution to a problem he or she has worked on with no success for weeks. Friedrich Kekule, for example, saw in a dream a formation of snakes, and one snake caught hold of its own tail. Through that image, he suddenly saw the structure of the benzene ring. When an artist is at work on a painting, images he or she had never thought of arrive instead of the images the artist had planned to set down. Some psychics receive knowledge of strangers through pictures that appear in their mind's eye, arriving particularly if they do not strive to know. Yeats has a crane say, "It's certain there are trout somewhere, and maybe I shall take a trout, if but I do not seem to care." Hare is intuition. Hare is the abundance of perceptions, insights, thoughts, resentments, images, fantasies waiting and ready to come out whenever we are thinking of something else. Marion Woodman retold one day a dream client of hers who had been working for months against greater inner resistance. The woman dreamt she had been walking through cluttered and swampy forest for days or weeks, and just when she thought she was nearly out of it, came down to a wide and dangerous river. Horrified and discouraged, she glanced up toward the forested mountain on the other side of the river. She saw that far up on the mountain someone had been creating a path that led down toward the river. If a human being takes an action, the soul takes an action. When a hare enters the water, the soul adds gold to it. That is what the soul is like, apparently. This spring water, with gold, snakes and fish in it, is the soul itself, which does nothing if you do nothing. But if you light a fire, it chops wood. If you make a boat, it becomes the ocean. It is possible that a dream comes forward at night in response to some verbal arrow or bodily gesture that came out of us in daylight. The water understands a blow or a kiss to be a movement toward it, and it responds with an image or a narrative, perhaps an entire dream as elaborate as Hamlet, Rainer Maria Rilke says. My eyes already touch the sunny hill, going far ahead of the road I have begun. So we are grasped by what we cannot grasp. It has its inner light even from a distance, and changes us, even if we do not reach it, into something else, which, hardly sensing it, we already are. A gesture waves us on, answering our own wave. But what we feel is the wind in our faces. 20 minutes. Oh. We'll leave it there before we get to the third day. See you on the next one.